All right, so I have no idea about anything lore related to Ashes of Creation, so this would actually be a good video for me to watch. Season 1 before the fall. Let's see. How old is this? This is like an old video, yeah, 1 year ago. The God of War.
In the world of ashes exists an energy. An energy.
I love how different Narc sounds. Yeah, this is Narc, yeah. I love how different these videos are compared to his newer shit.
Called the Essence. This is the power which magic and the gods draw upon to exist. There are 3 realms at which the Essence is known to exist on. The plane of the gods, which our almighty celestial leaders exist in, and is connected closely to the Essence, hence the gods' immense power. The second is the material plane which Vera exists on. It isn't quite as connected to the Essence as the previous, but still has an abundance of it. And finally, the Void. This plane has hardly any essence at all, being the furthest from the Essence that there is. However, it is still noteworthy that the Essence does exist there, just a tremendously small amount of it.
So, okay, so you have Celestial Realm, like the Realm of the Gods. You have our realm, like Vera, the player character. And then you have the Void, which I'm going to assume something like Hell or something like that. Is it following the cliche? Oh, I'll just keep watching because is it following a cliche though? Like heaven and hell fighting on top of your cliche. I mean, it's Diablo story, but yeah.
The Essence is a bridge of ley lines connecting each and every plane of existence together. Like a solar system, the sun in the middle being the Essence, and the various planets orbiting around the sun representing the different planes of existence. The closer they are to the sun, the more essence the plane has.
The funniest thing is he's doing this video. If anyone has ever been on like an LSD trip, there's this moment where like, man, I should really learn about the universe, and then you watch like some video about the universe. You're like, this is what this reminds me of. I was one time a few years ago. I was like, dude, I want to learn about the universe, and so start watching these the planets, and then there's fire, and then this exploded, the fucking stars. You're like, oh wow, that's what this reminds me of. It's a good thing.
There are 10 gods present in the world of Vera, existing within their god realm. At the time of uploading, we know who 5 out of the 10 are. The goddess of creation, with a celestial avatar of the Phoenix.
Alar.
The goddess of love, who remains currently unnamed. And 3 of our race's gods. The goddess of fate, Norlan, who the orcs worship. The goddess of hope, Resna, who the humans worship.
Resna.
And the god of truth, Shol, who the elves worship. It's probably safe to say there is another named god for the dwarfs, and then 4 more who we are currently unaware of. When our gods first created life on our planet, they put all their collective essence into one race. A race we know now as the Ancients.
The Nephilim.
Born into the material realm, these entities were powerful, knowledge-hungry beings who craved more than what the gods had given them. 3 of the gods were happy to share their knowledge of the essence with their creations. However, the remaining 7 were not. They feared these ancients would become corrupted by the knowledge of the essence, by not only using it for good, but using it for evil as well. This split between the gods
the funniest thing is because they were already greedy for more knowledge and wanting to know more was already a bad sign of why they would probably become corrupted. But yeah, so 3 versus 7, okay.
Across the god plane, causing unknown amounts of damage not only to their realm, but themselves. As trust was broken, and bonds severed, the three opposing gods knelt in defeat of the seven. In their current state, they were no match for the goddess of creation and their 6 other brethren. The 3 were banished into the void and sentenced for the conflict caused with a title that will forever label them as evil. The Others. The 7 remaining gods are evil. The Others.
Diablo Immortal? Yeah. That's what he's using. He's using Diablo Immortal here with some changes.
The 7 remaining gods, undecided with what to do with their knowledge-hungry ancients, decided to also cast them into the void. The gods were satisfied with their decision to trap the others and the ancients forever in a realm starved of essence, unknowing of the terrible entities that exist there. Which sets the story for our primary antagonists in Ashes of Creation, as they do indeed find a way back into the material plane eventually. After the others and their previous creations, the ancients, were locked away in the void, the gods set in motion the creation of a second populace for Vera. Learning from their past mistakes, the 7 remaining gods decided to, instead of pooling all their essence into one superior race, who were designed to achieve their god's will with efficiency and purpose, they instead chose to create 4 divine races instead, giving them the freedom to choose their own path.
Now there are 9 races, but that's because each one of these has 2 races, and then there's one more feral race, right? Fairy
and
race.
Spread their god's influence at their own pace. Alar humans, who eventually grew into the vast civilization, founding the great city of Alar, worshipping the god of hope, Renza. The Kaivek orcs, who headquartered their capital city of Ren, worshipping the goddess of fate, Norlin. The Pyrian elves, who based their population in the royal city of Amara, worshipping the god of truth, Shol. And finally, the Dunzenkel dwarfs, who built their great mountain city of Dun. As of uploading, we currently do not know which god they worship. The land was prosperous for thousands of years, with empires rising and falling. However, there was one empire that formed and became very prominent in the late years before the Exodus.
I really like the story. It's simple, it's to the point, you know exactly what's coming, how it's gonna happen, and that's fine. That's totally fine. It's simple, it's to the point, it's gonna be a massive adventure of killing shit.
Tauren Empire. These were a race of half-human, half-elves, led by the great wizard King Atrax, fortifying their kingdom in one of the greatest capital cities the world of Vera has ever known, Toral. King Atrax was the most advanced wizard of his kind, and led his Tauren army across the land, searching for relics to learn more about the essence and its immense potential. He was obsessed with the essence, and hell-bent on using its power to obtain immortality. Through his proclaiming of the relics, his knowledge grew. The first of his mighty relics was the sword, which he used to manipulate the evil intent of the essence to rip through his foes and dominate his people into obeying him. The second was the staff, which enabled Atrax to project his magic across the land, using manipulative magic to seep into his subjects' mind and force them to do his bidding without question. Third was the Golden Chalice, which was believed to bring everlasting life, however, only served to corrupt the drinker with the essence, which eventually helped the final relic. The Crown was a direct link to the ancients and allowed them to manipulate Atrax's corrupted soul into bringing calamity into his world.
Okay.
Through communion with the ancients, they convinced
Bro, this is Medivh, basically. This guy's Medivh. I love it. I love Medivh.
would be able to obtain true immortality instead of the broken promise the chalice gave. The ancients taught King Atrax the summoning rituals needed to bring them into his material plane. As he performed the rituals to order, more and more of the essence's secrets were given to the king, bringing up his subjects for sacrifice and performing unholy rituals of the void. The unwitting king had finally done it. He'd finally achieved immortality. However, as he looked down upon his form, he saw not an immortal Tauran king, but instead an almighty lich, overflowing with the power of undeath, becoming the first lich and undead of Vera's material plane. King Atrax was unsatisfied with his new form, as he had become addicted to searching for the power of the essence. So, he continued to enslave his people and pursue more relics. His hoard of powerful artifacts were stored in his great vault, Fallow's Hold, deep below the capital city. As the king sat upon
Bro,
his
where did
mighty
you find this song? It's so familiar, I just do not remember where from. But damn, this is a good fucking beat.
castle, looking over his undead kingdom of elves, the damage he had done became evident. The ancients had gotten what they wanted from the foolish king.
Oh yeah,
It was
definitely.
only a matter of time before the skies opened and the monolithic beings of stone and fire ripped through the walls of reality and into their material plane. The downpour of hellish death was of no concern to the undead king. He had relics to retrieve and was no enemy to the ancient calamity he wrought onto this world.
Diablo Immortal's coming.
Banished for millennia, the others and their ancients traversed the void, searching for any morsel of essence they could find. Starved and weakened from their battle against their brethren, the others focused their energies on teaching the ancients the secrets of the essence and how to use it to its full potential, weaving the essence in a way that manipulates instead of mends, controlling the essence to shatter instead of heal, bending the essence to command rather than rally. This twisted form of the essence was called corruption. This blood-red matter manifested itself in two ways. The most obvious form was the essence crystallized into deep red crystals of twisted matter, forming once the material realm is physically infected by the corruption's influence. These crystals shatter easily, however, regenerate themselves just as fast, making a troll infected with corruption physically a truly impossible opponent to defeat without help. The second form is the most insidious form, the manifestation that the others can use to win no matter what, given enough time. A thick red mist which infects the mind of its inhabitants of the material plane, seeping whispers of deceit and madness into even the righteous of souls, causing them to hear monstrous taunts, replacing their friends' cry for help, or twist their vision into seeing threatening atrocities instead of allies. Learning to use the essence in such
Damn. Okay, first of all, is this Solomon? Yeah, it's Solomon. Okay, so the ancients are... They come for vengeance. So what happens next? Like this, because this is like before the player character, right? This is like the first apocalypse or whatever, and then somehow some races survived the apocalypse or some shit like that, and they banish them again, but then they will come back. So that's where we come in.
way grants the ancients the added benefit of becoming gods, immortal, but with the caveat of twisting their near angelic-like form into something alien, superior. Their forms now contort into something savage, imposing, and demonic. Their innards now burning red with a blackened metal-like shell encompassing their empowered, hateful souls. However, one drawback from this form of immortality, however small it may be, does mean one thing. Unlike the undead immortality they granted to King Atrax, once they're destroyed, they can never be brought back through necromantic means.
Okay.
The final trait of this godhood allows them to manipulate their own essence to transcend to the god realm. However, even if they weren't trapped in this essenceless void, entering the god realm would reward them with instant annihilation from the Seven. So, how could they use this newfound ability to their advantage? The gods each have their own plane, which we'll no doubt gain access to during our time in Vera. So what stops the ancients from attacking a single god directly whilst they're vulnerable in their personal plane? This remains to be seen for now. With their ascension complete, the ancients could feel something within the void they could not before, and turned to their masters for answers.
Would be cool if, because I don't know what's happening next, but it would be really cool if by the time the player character is in the game, they actually already kill all the gods, and the only god left is the god of creation, and he's the last bastion for, you know. So it's like they killed all the gods, they went for god of creation, but god of creation managed to push them back and seal them again, but now god of creation is super weak, and we will be the last defense, because if god of creation dies, everything disappears or some shit.
The others had sensed it the moment they arrived, but felt unprepared to face it without their loyal, godlike soldiers at their side. Now, with that fixed, they turned their attention to the looming darkness, an energy unlike anything else existing within this essence-drained void. What could be out there? What could be calling to them? They steered towards the source with purpose, determined to seek it out and use it to their advantage any way they can. For 7,000 years, the others and their ancients searched the void, deeper and deeper into the darkness, being almost taunted by this unknown presence hidden beneath the burning coals of the void's decrepit wasteland. Whilst the others continued their search for seemingly mere shadows, the ancients changed their focus towards seeking a way back to the material plane, to seek vengeance on their original creators.
Yeah, obviously.
Their hatred for the Seven burned their souls brightly, seeping corruption out of their unholy forms. They must have vengeance. Understanding their plight, the others allowed them to pursue this need for revenge, as they too wanted to destroy the Seven's precious material plane and twist it to their own vision. One filled with seas of red, not just corruption, but blood. Divine blood. All the Seven had created must be perverted by the true form of the essence, corruption. Whilst the others continued their search, this is when the ancients made contact with King Atrax and began work manipulating him into weakening the bridges between the void and the material plane. Using their newfound ability to transcend the planes and manipulate the essence, they planted artifacts of power into the world, strengthening their precious pawn for him to perform the unholy rituals needed to provide the exact location of his pathetic plane of existence. Their influence seeped into his mind.
Wait, so they couldn't really access the void, like the material realm, but they could send artifacts, kind of? Like, they could only open mini ports or some shit like that because they couldn't identify where exactly was? How'd they Well, whatever. Let's just assume they could send artifacts. Sure.
Corrupting him into a blasphemous smear on the material plane. A small victory for the ancients, but a victory nonetheless. They were pleased with their power to corrupt. And that's when they felt it. Tendrils of darkness enveloped them, seeping into their mind, inciting a madness that the corruption could only begin to inflict upon its victims. As they turned to face the looming threat, they were greeted with three monstrous beings, overflowing with alien energy of infinite darkness. Floating high above them, great monolithic spheres of pure, unreasonable insanity hover in the back of the now dark and shadowy landscape surrounding them. The others had returned.
Okay. Delia's doom? Who's Delia?
I was a child when they first appeared in the night sky. At first, there were three distinct lights. Not quite the brightest in the sky, but they were bright enough. My mother told me that they were a sign from the gods that the world is about to change. She had a sense for these types of things.
Yeah, change is not always good, eh? It's like,
A long line of women in my mother's family were oracles. Written on one of the many tablets in the great halls of King Gimle is the story of my great-grandmother, the royal court's regent oracle, and how she foretold the rise of the undying during the Great War. As the days grew to months and months into years, the lights in the night sky grew in number. The priests in the temples began to refer to the lights as harbingers. Upon my graduation from the Master Stonecutters University, the lights numbered 16. Each passing month, the lights grew in brightness and size. It didn't take long for things to change in Dunheim. Families that I had grown up with began to move away from the city in the heart of the mountain. Travelers became less common, and temple services were filled every day with new converts seeking answers about the harbingers and what they meant. My mother wanted to leave the city as well, but my father wouldn't hear it. His auction house is what kept food on the table, and my brothers were both in the council guard. There was no way my father was going to be seen leaving the mountain. Honor and respect meant more than life itself, and my father had great pride in my brothers. Despite my mother's persistence to leave the city, we stayed. Life went on as normal as it could. Day by day, the harbingers loomed overhead, eventually visible in the day's sky. A constant reminder of the future that would befall Vera. The greatest scribes of our time could not find any references to this phenomena in our ancient manuscripts. The high priests and oracles of all the major temples across Dunzenkel Kingdom were summoned to the great capital Dunthor. Days before the great council meeting was set to begin, King Brunir was stricken with a mysterious illness. My mother, who was a part of the delegation from Dunheim, wrote to me describing the king's haggard appearance. King Brunir stood to deliver his address to the delegates and collapsed at the start of the blessing ceremony. What was meant to be a meeting of the Great Council became a coronation ceremony. At the pronouncement of his death, King Brunir's eldest daughter Vilga became the Queen of Dunzenkel Kingdom and protector of the Dwarven people. My mother returned a different woman from Dunthor, with a sort of terror in her eyes. My father and her stayed in their room the entire night. The next morning was the first time I saw my father paralyzed with fear, as if he'd seen a ghost. We began to pack immediately, planning to head to my uncle's mine inside the Aelan Empire. My brothers were told that our uncle Godin had died from a cave-in, and we were to attend his funeral. It was the only time my parents had told my brothers and I a lie.
Yeah.
We spent the next day preparing for the 3-day journey. Once packed, we began to follow the road out of the mountain. The road into Dunheim was a long tunnel that begins at the great gates of the mountain. Several miles in length, it was the only entrance in the mountain. Normally, this passage was filled with traders and travelers across Vera. But in recent years, the world had changed, and with it, so had the lifeline into Dunheim. We were just an hour or so from the grand gates of the mountain when it happened. A loud boom reverberated across the ground. It sounded as if the mountain itself had split apart, followed several seconds later by a shaking that nearly caused the rams carrying our supplies to fall to the ground. I could see my father's mouth moving as he screamed at me, but I couldn't hear anything other than the loud ringing that filled my head. It was at this moment I felt something wet falling down.
It was at this moment I knew we fucked up.
my neck. I lifted my hand to feel what it was. I guess the shock from the whole thing prevented me from understanding what had happened. My fingers were covered in blood. The shaking stopped almost as soon as it began. Behind the sight of my father calling me, I saw my brothers struggling to lift the cart which had collapsed. It was then I noticed a hand from beneath the collapsed axle of the wooden cart. I immediately ran to the cart and began to push with all my might. The frame of the wooden vehicle collapsed into itself, revealing my mother's mangled body. She lay lifeless amidst the debris. As my brothers and I stood in shock, our father frantically searched through my mother's bags, whilst we watched for the slightest hint of movement. "Where is it?" my father asked, as he tore through the books and clothing in the various bags that were thrown to the road when the cart collapsed. "Where is what?" I said to him, despite his complete attention devoted to his searching. My mind began to fill with the memories of my mother. I saw both my brothers already overcome with emotion, and just as despair began to take its grip, I heard my father shout out, "Got it!" He rushed over to my mother. Standing over her, he recited a phrase that I did not understand. A blinding flash of white light erupted from my father's hand.
Resurrection magic?
A curled and tangled wand fell from his hands, and I watched as my mother began coughing tightly in my father's arms. My brothers and I rushed to help them both. "We need to get out of the mountains, Bron," she said to my father as he held her. "Helgun, Fargud, quickly, help me grab the food and supplies," he told my brothers. Looking at me,
can't even tell that it's him, right?
"Watch your mother whilst I help your brothers." As I sat with my mother, watching my father and brothers tie what supplies they could recover to the ram's saddle, she turned to me. "The darkness has come."
Crazy. That's pretty fucking sick. I like the story again. It's not complex, and it's good that it's not complex. Just keep it normal, man. Just keep it understandable and all that stuff, man. I love stories like this. Of all the AOC lore content that I found, Narc starts the furthest back than anyone. He actually starts with the essence itself and explaining a bit what it's all about. Then he brings in the 10 gods and how they came to be gods, all because of the essence itself. No one else that I found in my search for AOC lore even goes back that far. Generally, all other lore vids start out with, there were 10 gods that existed. And my first thought is always, well, where did they get that power from? So I really appreciate Narc's storytelling in that. Seems to start from the absolute beginning instead of just a general beginning. Good work. You have amazing skilled narration and storytelling. The more deep the lore is, the more contents can be made. Yeah, good. This is amazing. You're really good storyteller. Also, volume sounds good in this video. This makes me want to play the game even more. Yes, I would say a good story, not complex story, a good story does make for a much bit more exciting and appealing game, for sure. Especially when it comes to MMORPGs. But yeah, sick video. I loved it. Yeah, that is crazy. But I know nothing about the Ashes of Creation lore at all. Like, nothing. So this is actually like, I'm glad that this is the first lore video I'm watching, because it tells me like from the beginning. So that's cool. Yeah, 3 planes. the interesting part is the void might be endless. So we don't know how deep those three gods went to meet those void people. There might be even more in there. So like, let's say like this. So here's how the expansions can go, right? It's like will eventually be the three evil gods and the ancients, whatever. That's already like 3-4 expansions deep right there. That's like easily 10-year content, just the three gods and the what's it called again, three gods, by the way. Ascians, Final Fantasy, three Ascians, you know, three gods. So yeah, we can, that will take easily, with good storytelling, 10 years, right? And then we can go delve into like the void stuff after that, right? So yeah, that would be pretty cool. Anyways, yeah, that's the video. Give Narc a like, a sub, and if you have time, then give me one too. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.